Okay, welcome again to our little Mile High Homestead YouTube channel. Here's a quick update. We spent the better part of yesterday, and I'm talking like 7 hours on this coop. So you can see there's some names and stuff. This coop was here when we got here. I don't know who these kids are that whose names are on here, but and I wouldn't have chosen red or necessarily built it this way, but you make do with what you got, right? So anyway, we did a few changes. The biggest one was some of these junipers had limbs that were resting on the top of the coop, and the top of the coop was just plywood. So a lot of the roof had been rotting, was dripping into the coop and causing rot as well. So I trimmed those limbs off and then added, this was just some scrap tin I called in on our local, what's it called? It's like we call it Tradio, but it's like a Craigslist on the AM station. Anyway, it's great for this kind of stuff. So I just called in and said, look, I'm working on a chicken coop. Willing to spend $20 on some scrap tin. Anyway, this guy called and said, I've got plenty. So I could have done 6 inches of overhang on each side. But I decided to go a little skimpy on this side since there's really no exposure there anyway. We did get plenty of overhang on this end too, not as much on the other side. I also made just a little hole to get the cord into. Might do a little more with that later on, we'll see. This, you can see here, this used to cover that. It had a hinge but no handle. I don't know exactly why that was there before, maybe to access brooder boxes or something. But anyway, I just pulled that out, turned it into a window. And this is on the eastern side, so it'll get morning sun in the summer, but not anything direct in the heat of the day. If we go around here, this door, I built this a few weekends ago just to cover the opening, because this end, if you remember over here as well, where this I didn't move this pallet out of the way, but where that unpainted wood is, that was all open to the elements. So anyway, I built the door and that a few weeks ago, but we hung it on hinges now, so we don't have to actually lift it up and out of place. I'll make this a little better later, right? But we'll let the camera adjust. There we go. So you can kind of see that back half of the coop has that floor has been in pretty darn good condition even still. This front part, though, I think partially because of this opening here and partially because I've got it covered now, but they're along this line. That's the problem when you build a coop and your floor is a 4x8 piece of plywood, and then you build a slanted roof with some overhang. You end up with a 4x8 piece of plywood not quite covering it. So there was a big gap right here, and then they put some more plywood here, but that big open gap didn't have any kind of other cover. I'm sure it was tight when it was first built, but as time went on, the gap became bigger and bigger, and this whole area, the first time I actually stepped in the coop, the kind of where that little blue thing is there, that my foot fell through. so that wasn't too fun. Anyway, found another scrap piece of plywood. I took out that half of the plywood. There was a 2x4 running across the bottom that was supporting, so I cut everything on this side of the 2x4 out. Everything on the other side was left in place. You can see the birds huddled over here. This is a radiant heater. They look cold. I think they're just cozy. Because normally they are just walking around and having fun out here. So I don't really think they're that cold. I check on them several times a day to see, and usually, this is actually the first time in, I don't know, a week that I've seen them all huddled like this. They really like this. This is a new heater. I'll post a link to the Amazon description below. We just got it to replace the more dangerous bulbs. This is safe. They can actually touch it. And then it's got two settings here, and I'm going to make the wiring a little safer as they get bigger and can fly around. But this is a 200 watt double coil. Then this is the 100 watt setting. So this is the top setting, and we're supposed to have the temperatures really warm up here over the next week, and then I'll set it back to the 1 and maybe even to 0. We'll see. So this is where I tend to keep most of the bedding fluffy and try to keep it as clean as I can. Replace it all every week, and that's been really good. They're so funny. I'm really glad that they're friends. I was worried that the ducks and the chickens might not get along, but they've really, it seems like they all like to snuggle the ducks. So anyway, they're really fun. Here is a feeder we just put together. So we used one of the Firehouse Subs pickle buckets. They're $2 a piece, and the proceeds are used to help their foundation. So each side is the same. We've just got a, what is this, a 3-inch PVC. I may fine tune it a little bit so there's not as much spillover, but so far they haven't made too much of a mess out of it. This was kind of the intermediate feeder I used. You can see there's not much, as much in there. And they haven't spilled much of it either. You can see down there they spilled some bedding, but not a whole lot of the food. We've got some grit in here. And then here's another bucket I used to build a waterer. When I ordered the heater, I got these little these things online as well. They haven't quite taken to it, partially because it's just so dang high from where they are. We'll see later. I'm gonna fix the mounting apparatus. That's why we've got this bowl of water here. We've been changing out 2 or 3 times a day. And then, as you can see, instead of covering the whole floor, I actually only covered part of it and left this grating, and that was because of the ducks. The ducks, when they drink, it's really messy. And so, since all the drafts are kind of in this half of the coop, and the wind comes from that corner, I think it's going to be just fine. They haven't seemed to notice any kind of issues with temperature so far, but anyway, we are monitoring that to see if they'll be okay. This is like I said, this is the very first time I've ever seen them kind of snuggling like this. So usually they're just up and about and happy. Anyway, so we left this open. This is just hardware cloth at the bottom. I'm going to work on continuing to secure it and make sure it's rodent proof, but we did that so I can set up later basically a cutout here. So this would be open to the outside, maybe a small door or something to shut it off. But we would be able to put a deeper watering basin through this hole. It would be fully enclosed in a combination of hardware cloth and then some ports for ducks to be able to stick their heads through, stick their bills through, and fully immerse their heads and clear out their sinuses and everything, but not be able to whip their heads around and make a huge splash. And for what does splash, it would splash through the grating here instead of on plywood and cause some rotting. So anyway, that's the goal. We'll see how that goes. And then I would like to put this bigger waterer over here so it's easier for the chickens to get to. And then once again, we will have likely set the brooder boxes in here so that we can have access from that side. And anyway, it's all a work in progress. We're going to see how it goes. But if you have any questions, comments, any kind of input is really appreciated. And thanks for watching.